Thank you for coming to our YouTube video on preparing a presentation. You can email me, Professor Scanlon, at scanlon1@kenyon.edu to receive a copy of these slides, or if you have any questions. This video is going to cover 10 tips for how to craft a strong presentation, as well as go over some resources on campus that can offer further support, including our Writing Center. First thing you should do when you're crafting a strong presentation is use enticing visuals. You want to coordinate colors, keeping to like 4 or less. You don't want to overwhelm your audience with an explosion of color. You want to use easy to read and accessible fonts, especially sans serif fonts for our readers with dyslexia or dysgraphia. You want to pick relevant visuals and include alternative text, again, to be inclusive and accessible. And you want to change them up. You don't want to use the same format for every slide or image, and you don't want to use the standard Google Slides format that they give you automatically. You want to provide a roadmap for your listeners or your viewers. You want them to know what's coming. So if you're using visuals like a Prezi or a Google Slides or a PowerPoint, you should include a slide explaining what your presentation will cover, but just don't give too much detail. Remember that incomplete sentences and bullet points are best. If you're speaking, you want to make sure to clarify where your speech will take your listeners with sort of a thesis statement of a roadmap providing at the beginning what you're going to cover. Another thing that you want to do is enunciate, trying to speak slowly and clearly as much as possible. You do want to speak loudly enough for the back row to hear you. Don't mumble or mutter. You want to use words that are accessible and easily understood, and ones that you're certain you can pronounce comfortably. If you feel yourself starting to talk too fast, pause and take a breath before proceeding. Sometimes the best way to pause, by the way, is to say, are there any questions? That gives you a chance to get your bearings and sort of makes a more natural discussion out of your presentation. Number 4 is accessibility. You want to accommodate the needs of others as much as possible. Again, using easy to read fonts, sans serif fonts like this one, which is Trebuchet, are really usable in that setting. You want to incorporate alt text for all of your images so that your audience can find out what the images portray. Providing subtitles that are you-generated instead of auto-generated is also a good idea. We do that for all of our videos. And it can be really classy to provide copies of your slides or handouts so that your audience can follow along if maybe looking at the screen hurts their eyes or they get distracted easily. You also need to respect copyright. They're called copyright laws for a reason, and that's because they're legislated. So you choose your own images or images under the Creative Commons licenses, cite your sources accurately and often, include a resources page if presenting with visuals, and offer one if you're giving a speech. Your professor will probably ask for one anyway. And you can always ask your librarians for help. Our librarians are amazing at knowing what is in the public domain versus what isn't, or what can be used even if it isn't in the public domain under our own licensures. Oops, sorry, my slides are going wild today. There's a lot of physical space in videos, both in the recorded presentations and in the ones given in class. So for the ones given in class, make eye contact if possible, use hand gestures if able, and walk around or use a pointer if you're worried about fidgeting or playing with your hands too much or something. If you're in a video setting, however, there's still physical space on the screen, so use it well. Take it up wisely, as in this image here. We are not overwhelming our reader with words here, but we also break it up nicely with an image of campus. Using color coordination like we do here, where we take the color out of the image and just leave it in tints of purple, is also really nice because it doesn't overwhelm our viewers. Think about powerful words, choosing words with clear and strong meanings. You can emulate successful speakers to see what phrases they repeat, or speakers that you like too. List things in order by using cue words like first, second, third, and let readers know when you're moving to a new point with transition words like next, furthermore, and finally. These are also all great auditory cues for your audience who may not be able to read your speech or read your slides, but can follow along based on your vocal cues. Always proofread. Check your spelling and grammar more than once. Always the last thing before you hit submit or go to present, check it just one more time. You never know, maybe you added an extra keystroke on a slide as you were going to save it. It's better to be safe than sorry. We recommend using the free version of Grammarly, running spell check, and asking another person to read it. Our Writing Center tutors are more than happy to help here. They can read your presentations with you, and they'll help you practice them too. We also always recommend reading your presentation out loud to make sure it all makes sense and gives you some extra practice too, so you're more comfortable when you go to present. Which brings us to point number 9, practice more than once. Practice truly does make perfect. It gives you a chance to catch errors on your visuals, to make sure your points are clear, and to prepare your voice to enunciate and speak loudly. The more familiar you get with what you're saying, the more comfortable you'll be when presenting, and the more natural it will feel both to you and to your listeners. Our Writing Center tutors are more than happy to listen to you while you practice, and we do reserve special rooms so that you don't have to practice out in the open area if you don't want to. You can also meet with us online and practice that way. Be on time. This is key. Respect the time requirement your professor has given you. Don't make your presentation or video go too long or too short. And if it is a presentation that you're doing live or a video that you're presenting live, make sure that you leave time for questions. There are always questions someone wants to ask, and giving them that time and acknowledging their viewing of your work is always a good move. We have a couple great resources for support here at Kenyon. First are always your Writing Center tutors who are ready to help you practice your presentations, to help you edit your presentations, and even to help you get started. They also provide a nice second set of eyes about colors and fonts and things like that. Our librarians, again, are wonderful at helping you find resources to include in your presentations, how to use things like our digital studios, and also how to respect copyright laws. And then last but certainly not least is your professor during her, their, or his office hours. Please make sure to stop by and get those questions answered sooner rather than the night before the presentation is due. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, you can visit the Writing Center on Chalmers Floor 2. We hope to see you soon.